There's a windshield somewhere in Texas right now with a clean rectangle on it. You've probably seen one. The rest of the glass has that faint haze that sun and highway grit leave behind after a few summers, and then there's this one small patch that's a slightly different shade, sharp-edged, perfectly square, a ghost. That's where the inspection sticker sat, and for decades that little square of paper was the price of putting a car on a Texas road. No sticker, no registration. No registration, and a traffic stop turns into a bad afternoon. Then, on the first day of January 2025, it stopped meaning anything. And here's what makes this worth 20 minutes of your time. When that change was coming, a lot of people said the same thing in a lot of different ways. Untested brakes, bald tires, roads full of cars nobody had looked at in years. Some of it was well-meant, some of it was written by people who sell inspections. We now have a full year of the state's own numbers on the other side of that line. This video is going to say something you almost never hear on YouTube. Don't panic. And then it's going to spend the rest of the time proving it, with documents you can pull up yourself. But stay to the end, because something did change. It's just not the thing anyone was shouting about. This is the Owner's Report. I'm Ellen. Quick thing before we get into it. Everything in this video comes out of one habit: read the actual document, name the source out loud, and say plainly when the record is thin. I put that habit into a book. It's called What the Record Actually Says About Your Car. It walks through the total loss threshold that decides whether your car gets repaired or hauled away, with the statute printed next to it. It takes a repair estimate apart line by line. It shows how your insurance premium actually gets filed with a regulator before it ever reaches you, and what your car's black box does and doesn't record. Same rules as this channel. Every claim names its source. The link's in the description. Now Texas. Let's start with what the law actually did, because most of the coverage got the shape of it wrong. The bill is House Bill 3297, passed by the 88th Texas Legislature and signed in 2023, with an effective date of January 1st, 2025. It abolished the Vehicle Safety Inspection Program for non-commercial vehicles. Non-commercial, hold on to that word. Because commercial vehicles in Texas still get inspected. Every one of them, statewide. The trucks sharing the interstate with you at 70 miles an hour did not stop being checked. Not for a day. And emissions testing didn't go anywhere either. If your vehicle is registered in one of 17 counties, that's the Houston area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Austin and Williamson, El Paso, and the rest of the list, you still take your car in and you still get tested. Bexar County joins that list in 2026, which will make it 18. So the actual scope of the change is narrower than the headline. What went away was the safety portion for privately owned passenger vehicles in a state where a majority of drivers still had to show up somewhere for emissions anyway. Now hold on, back up one step, because I skipped the part that's actually about your wallet, and it's the part almost nobody covered. The inspection is gone, the fee isn't. Every year, when you renew your registration in Texas, you pay $7.50. The statute calls it an inspection program replacement fee. It's in Section 548.511 of the Transportation Code, and you can read the bill analysis for it on the Texas Legislature's own website. Read that name again. Inspection Program Replacement Fee. The program is what got replaced. The fee is what stayed. And if you buy a new car in Texas, current model year or the one before, never registered anywhere, you pay a one-time fee of $16.75 instead, which covers you for the following year too. Here's the part I find genuinely interesting, and it's on the record in the bill analysis. That money is split three ways. Of the $750, $3.50 goes to the Texas Mobility Fund, $2 to General Revenue, and $2 to the Clean Air account. Of the $16.75, $12.75 goes to the Mobility Fund, and the same 2 and 2 on the rest. The Texas Mobility Fund pays for roads. So follow what actually happened to your $750. Before, you drove to an inspection station, paid a private business for a service, and the state took a cut on the back end at registration. Now you skip the station, the private business gets nothing, and the state's cut arrives at your renewal exactly as before. That's not a scandal. It's not hidden. It's printed in the bill. But it is a transfer, and it's worth being able to name it. A revenue stream that used to be split between a small business and the state is now collected entirely by the state, and the service attached to it no longer exists. Keep that in mind. We're coming back to it. Now the question everyone actually wants answered. Did the roads get worse? Let's do the mechanism first, because the answer only makes sense if you understand what an inspection was and wasn't doing. A safety inspection is a snapshot. Somebody looks at your lights, your horn, your wipers, your mirrors, your tires, your brakes, your windshield, your steering and suspension, and confirms that on this particular Tuesday, they work. That's it. It's not a promise about the following Wednesday, or about March, or about the 11.5 months between this inspection and the next one. And the failures and inspection catches are, overwhelmingly, the failures a police officer can also see from outside the car. A headlight out, a cracked windshield, a tire worn to the cords. So the real question isn't whether inspections find problems. They obviously do. The question is whether finding those problems once a year, on a schedule, measurably changes how many people crash. That question has been studied for a long time, and the honest summary is uncomfortable for both sides of the argument. The clearest source is a Government Accountability Office report, number 15-705, published in August of 2015. It's free, it's online, and it's the single most useful document in this whole subject. 3 findings from it. First, on the size of the problem. Estimates drawn from federal crash data put vehicle component failure as a factor in somewhere between 2 and 7% of crashes. That's a wide range, and I'll come back to why it's wide. But even at the top of it, more than 9 crashes in 10 involve no vehicle component failure at all. Second, on whether inspections move that number. The GAO reviewed the existing studies and ran its own analysis. It looked at New Jersey and Oklahoma before and after each of those states ended its inspection program. In both, crashes involving component failure ran generally between 2 and 3% of all crashes and varied little from year to year, including after the programs went away. Third, and this is the part that gets left out of every headline written about that report, the GAO did not conclude that inspections don't work. It concluded that it could not tell. Its actual language is that research remains inconclusive because the share of crashes involved is small and too many other things move at the same time: new traffic laws, enforcement changes, road design, vehicle technology. That's a different statement. No proven benefit and proven no benefit are 2 different sentences, and almost every article you've read about this collapsed them into one. There's a second document worth knowing about. In 2018, 2 economists, Alex Hoagland and Trevor Woolley, published a study in the journal Contemporary Economic Policy titled "It's No Accident." They used federal fatality data from 2000 through 2015 and a method called synthetic control, which builds a statistical stand-in for New Jersey out of a weighted blend of similar states that kept their inspections, then compares real New Jersey against its imaginary twin. They found no significant increase in fatalities attributable to car failure after New Jersey dropped inspections in 2010. That's a real finding from a peer-reviewed journal, and it's one of the studies the repeal argument leans on hardest. Verification note, and this one matters. There are other studies using different data and different methods that report the opposite, that states with inspection programs show somewhat lower rates of mechanical defect crashes. I've seen specific percentages from that side circulating in secondary sources, and I couldn't run them down to a primary paper I could hand you, so I'm not going to put a number on your screen that I can't cite. What I can tell you honestly is this: the literature is split, the effects being argued over are small, and anyone who tells you this question is settled hasn't read enough of it. Now, the Texas numbers. 2024, the last full year with inspections, Texas recorded 4,150 traffic fatalities. 2025, the first full year without them, 3,809. That's a drop of roughly 8%. Deaths went down. And now I need you to watch me do the thing that this entire channel exists to do, because it would be very easy right now to declare victory and roll credits. That number does not prove inspections were useless. 1 year is 1 year. Traffic fatalities fell nationwide. In 2025, nationally they hit their lowest level since 2019. Texas was riding the same wave everybody else was. Fuel prices move, traffic volume moves, enforcement campaigns run, newer vehicles with automatic emergency braking keep entering the fleet. Any one of those could account for the drop, and probably several of them together do. If someone had shown you a year where deaths went up 8% and told you that proved the repeal killed people, you'd be right to push back. The same skepticism has to run in both directions. Or it isn't skepticism, it's just picking a side and calling it research. So here's the accurate sentence, and it's less satisfying than either headline. The catastrophe that was predicted did not appear in year one. That's all we can say. It's also, if you were worried, quite a lot. One more note on those numbers. I found 3 different published figures for how much Texas fatalities fell in 2025. About 8%, 9%, and 12%, all of them ultimately drawing on the same state crash system. They're measuring slightly different things, or different date ranges, or different stages of a database that gets revised as late reports come in. That's not anyone lying. It's what happens when a live data set gets quoted at different moments. When you see a percentage on this topic, the useful question is, percentage of what, over what period, as of what date? Let's do the other side properly, because there is a real argument here and it deserves better than it usually gets. The strongest case for inspections isn't about crash statistics at all. It's about the cars. Pennsylvania, which runs one of the most thorough programs in the country, reported that in 2014, more than 529,000 vehicles, roughly 1 in 5 inspected, failed and then got repaired in order to pass. Those repairs happened. Brakes got replaced, ball joints got replaced, tires got replaced. Whether or not that shows up in a crash statistic, 500,000 vehicles were in better condition afterward than before. Second, and this is the strongest single point on that side, the 2% figure may be too low, and the federal government says so itself. Federal safety officials have noted that police at a crash scene don't disassemble anything, they do a visual check. So the vehicle-related causes that get written into crash reports are the ones you can see: a flat tire, a smashed light, a bent steering column. An internal failure that caused the crash and then got destroyed in the crash is very unlikely to be recorded as the reason. There's a federal crash study from 2005 through 2007 that found roughly 6.8% of vehicles involved in crashes had some system breakdown likely to raise crash risk. Not necessarily the cause, but present. That's more than triple the 2% number, and it's the honest ceiling of this argument. Third, the American vehicle fleet keeps getting older. The average car on the road is older now than it was when most of these studies were run. Whatever inspections were worth in 2010, the case for them arguably strengthens as fleets age. And fourth, a fairness point. An inspection is one of the very few moments when a driver who can't afford a mechanic finds out that something on their car is genuinely dangerous. Remove it, and the people most likely to be driving a car with a real problem are the people least likely to discover it. That's a serious argument. I don't think it's been answered. I think it's been outvoted, which isn't the same thing. So who actually fought about this? The record answers that, and it's the part I promised you. The public witness list attached to the Texas bill analysis is right there on the legislature's site. Among those registered on it, the Texas State Inspection Association, individual inspection station operators, an automaker trade group, dealer groups, and several law enforcement organizations, including a police officers union, a police chiefs association, and a sheriff's alliance. You don't need a theory about that. Just read it as it is. The people whose businesses were the inspection program showed up. So did the people who used the inspection sticker as a lawful reason to stop a car. And then look at what happened one state over, well, several states over, but the same year. New Hampshire ended its own annual inspection program through its state budget, with the repeal set to take effect on January 31st, 2026. The company that ran the state's emissions testing system sued in federal court, not on safety grounds. On the Clean Air Act, arguing the state couldn't drop the program without federal approval first because emissions testing was part of New Hampshire's federally approved air quality plan. In late January of 2026, a federal district judge granted a preliminary injunction ordering the state to keep the program running. The state then announced it had no approved vendor to run it and declared the program suspended anyway. The state appealed, and in the spring, the First Circuit granted a stay of the lower court's order. As of this recording, it's still live, and the honest thing to say about a live case is that I don't know how it ends. Check the court's docket, not a summary, including this one. But notice the shape of it. When the inspection requirement went away, the party that went to court wasn't a safety group. It was the contractor. I want to be careful here, because it would be easy to turn that into a story it isn't. There's no evidence of a plan. There's no coordination to point at. What there is a structure. An inspection mandate creates a guaranteed customer base, and when the mandate ends, the guaranteed revenue ends with it, and the party that loses revenue is the party with a reason to litigate. That happens without anyone conspiring about anything. Aligned incentives don't need a plan. So what actually changed for you? Picture this. You're in a used car lot on a Saturday, or you're standing in a stranger's driveway with cash in your pocket, looking at a truck you found online. Under the old system, there was one thin thread of reassurance available to you, a sticker or a lookup, showing that at some point in the last 12 months, somebody who wasn't the seller had put this vehicle on a lift and signed off on it. That thread is gone. It was thin. It was a snapshot, up to a year stale, and a determined seller could work around it. But it existed, and now it doesn't. And it's the single most concrete thing this repeal removed from an ordinary person's life, not roads full of unsafe cars. One small independent data point that used to be free and is now something you have to go buy yourself from a mechanic before you hand over money. That's the real story. It's smaller than the panic and it's bigger than nothing. How any of this applies to your specific vehicle, your registration, or a car you're thinking about buying is a question for the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles, your county tax office, or a licensed professional. This video is about what the public record says. So where does that record live? House Bill 3297, 88th Texas Legislature. Full text, the House Research Organization analysis, the witness list, and the complete action history are on the Texas Legislature online website. The fee provisions are in Section 548.511 of the Transportation Code. The Texas Department of Public Safety publishes what the change did and did not cover, including the list of emissions counties. Government Accountability Office Report 15-705, Vehicle Safety Inspections. Free and the most honest document in this fight. Texas Department of Transportation crash statistics, published annually with a public query tool where you can pull crash data yourself by year and county. Hoagland and Woolley, It's No Accident, Contemporary Economic Policy, Volume 36, Number 4, 2018. And the Federal Recall Database, which is free, searchable by your own vehicle identification number, and covers something an inspection never did defects the manufacturer already knows about. Everything I've said today is in one of those. Every number, every date. If I got something wrong, those documents will tell you so, and I'd rather you find out from them than take my word for it. That's the record. The links are in the description, including the book, if you want the long version of how these systems actually work. This has been The Owner's Report.